Hello everyone, welcome back to Newbird's Dev Team. We're going to do a little devlog today for you guys. Got a nice little whiteboard screen happening here. Give you guys a little visual. So firstly, in the past week or so, I've been working on the AI engine for the game. And that's what I'll be working on throughout the whole game development, for the most part. So the first set of subroutines that I'm going to be building are generation subroutines. So things that make NPCs, companies, and networks, of course. Though in particular, the networks, probably going to be saving that for a little bit later, because that's a very involved generation engine that needs to be made for that. Next thing to come after that will probably be the meat of the game, which is the decision engines. So first off, we're going to have the common decision engines. This is basically NPCs deciding where to go in their day, what they like to do. And depending on what they encounter during their day, it changes the way they react to future things. And we base this off of kind of 3 factors: knowledge, rationality, and neuroticism. I'm not sure if I spelled neuroticism right, but whatever, you get the idea. And to be more accurate, knowledge actually behaves a bit more like intellect more than knowledge. Because it's not necessarily what the person knows, but how generally smart they are. And based on these factors, they generate into different companies, such as a person with a high knowledge factor has a higher chance of becoming an IT or a security professional or whatever. Next we have bureaucratic decisions, or government. And this basically goes down to setting policies for companies which will eventually govern how what the booming economy will be. Though there will be random events that kind of sway what products will be in favor for that particular month or whatever. The government decisions will also govern how easy it is to hack certain things, or how easy it is to get away with it. That's another big thing, because they ultimately decide which particular fields in the government are funded. And that gets into our next thing, which is police. Now this is actually a two-parter, because we have the police, and then we have organized crime. Now how those work, starting with the police, we got, well actually let's start with starting with organized crime. Depending on which companies are booming really hard, like this is kind of a regulator engine that we built in, so that people who are super companies and have built really strong companies, they basically paint a bigger target on their back. They can hire security professionals to prevent organized crime, but ultimately they'll be the most targeted. Now you can report these crimes to the police, and what that will do is they'll basically gather evidence. Now we have a few tiers of evidence, and this kind of this will go into hacking too. So when a company reports a crime, either physically or digitally, evidence is gathered in a file, and it has different tiers. So tier 1, we have partial evidence. Now it takes a lot of partial evidence to basically throw someone in jail, but it is the least incriminating evidence. and it basically is just maybe you left a void where a log should have been in the log field or something, or they undelete a log and they find something that's incriminating to you. That would be partial. Then the next tier we have substantial, and substantial evidence would be something like they have a complete log file of what you did, or the person who stole from a company left fingerprints behind, or some other kind of evidence. Then we have a special third tier just for the mafia and organized crime related stuff. But we might actually incorporate this feature into regular gameplay with players also. It'll just be a bit more difficult. And that's the witness evidence. And the witness feature will essentially be basically organized crime ratting out organized crime. But if you go on a job with another hacker, for example, we might incorporate a feature where they can rat on you, essentially, and build up your file. Then we have the last tier, incriminating evidence. So that tier is essentially if they have one piece of incriminating evidence, you instantly are guilty of something. Like you can't really save yourself from incriminating evidence. That would be if you did something really bad and you left traces of it everywhere. So there is like without a doubt that you did that crime. That would be incriminating. So that's it for decision engines. Then we have the last few items, which are basically game functions. The first being compounding of bank interest. So every week or so, interest in banks goes and compounds. Then we have stock market stuff. And stock market related shifts in value happen instantaneously, and they're based on the company's value. Then lastly, we have news networks. And I think I'm going to have a lot of fun with news networks, because news networks basically store data on everything that's happened that day, or that in the past 3 hours. So anything from company related stuff to strange decision related things, or definitely government policies will be another one that it reports on, and police and mafia too. So basically every decision that's made is reported on, and you'll get your police and mafia reports, and those things will also include hacks. So this will be a way to get some validation that you actually did something in the game, is the news network will report on your hacks, right? Especially if it's a really, really crazy one. And I'm going to do my best to make the structuring of the news to be different every time, so it will kind of assemble sentences a little bit differently, so the stories don't sound exactly the same, which would be very boring. And I might even keep a record of previous news stories that have happened, so sometimes the news reporter will compare an event to something that has happened before, and it'll say, this is like the craziest thing that's happened since whatever. And I think that'll be kind of neat. So for the next while, I'll be working on the NPC generation, and that's kind of taking up most of my time recently. There is a lot to it. We're setting up some database work to build these NPCs and store them. If I have time, I might do a little bit of company gen too. But I'm definitely saving network gen for a lot later, because that's going to be quite a bit of work. So that's basically it for today. Got nothing much else to talk about, so have a nice day everyone, and thanks for tuning in.